So let's start. Okay, the listening paper. It's 40 minutes. Okay, there are 4 parts, and you have 30 questions in total. Okay, the first part is a multiple choice. Okay, so you have 8 short conversations and 8 questions about each conversation. I'm sorry, 1 question about each conversation, right? So you have a conversation, question, conversation, question. Okay, in part 2, you have what we call a sentence completion, and I think that was your favorite part. Okay, which is like a close activity. Now you hear people talking about, or a person talking about a specific topic, and you need to complete. You have specific sentences with blanks, and according to what the person is saying, you need to complete the sentences correctly. Okay, in part 3, you have what we call multiple matching. And if you remember in paper 1, in part 6, you had something similar, except that in paper 1 you had 4 different short articles, or an article divided into 4 different paragraphs, and then you had a list of where those paragraphs, where the sentences, which sentence is talking about which paragraph, right? I'm sorry, that was in part 7. Here it's something similar, except of course you don't have to read anything, you just have to listen. So you will have 5 people talking, okay, in different times. The first person will talk, and then you have to identify what the person is talking about, right? So you will have 7 sentences to choose from, so you can match to the correct person, right? And then finally you have part 4, which is a multiple choice, similar to number 1, except that in this case you don't have a short conversation and a question, short conversation and a question. In this case, you have a whole dialogue, and the questions go in chronological order. Okay, so let's go over this about the general suggestions. Okay, and we've already mentioned this before, right? Follow the instructions. Always do what they ask you to do, right? And we mentioned this before, right? If you follow the instructions in any examination, if you follow the instructions carefully, you will not have a problem. Okay, the instructions in these exams are always the same. So in the beginning, since we're training for this, read the instructions, but then later you already know what they are going to ask you to do. Now, part of the instructions here are, for example, in part 2, right? They will say, okay, you're going to listen about this topic, and you will have to complete the sentences. And then they will tell you in parts 2, 3, and 4, they will tell you, see, and now you have 30 seconds, or now you have 1 minute to read. Okay, and those are the instructions. You see, unfortunately, what sometimes people do is, oh, I have 30 seconds. Okay, no problem. People are thinking about other things and what plans they have for the weekend or what happened last week, whatever. And then when the person starts speaking, then they start paying attention to the what they have to read. Okay, and that's a mistake, because if they give you 30 seconds or 1 minute to read, do that. Remember in the reading and use of English, right? You had the title, and we mentioned the strategy is read the title so you can have an idea of what the reading is going to be about. Check any pictures if there are any, and then skim through it. In this case, you have that 30 seconds or 1 minute to read and to have an idea what the topic is all about. And while you are reading, okay, you will probably know what type of word goes in the blanks, especially in part 2, correct? So it's important to, they give you time to read ahead, do it, okay? So follow the instructions as usual, okay? The second time, remember, in this case, you will do the listening twice, okay? The second time, you can use it to confirm, okay? Or you can also use it in order to, if you didn't get the answer in the first time, then you can get the answer in the second time, okay? Make sure that the overall meaning is exactly the same, right? Especially in part 2, right? And also, if you are doing the paper-based exam, make sure that you write clearly, right? Remember, we mentioned that they will give you enough space to complete the answer, and they ask you to write only the answer using capital letters. So make sure you write clearly, okay? Now then, this is the general for all of the tasks. In this case, part 1, multiple choice, 8 questions. What you need to do is check the keywords, okay? Check the keywords in the question and in the answers, okay? And you need to be very careful. For example, the question might say, what does the man say? Now, you will have 3 choices, and in the 3 choices, they will probably mention something that was mentioned in the conversation. However, 2 of the things that are in the answers were mentioned by the girl. And the question is, what does the man say? Okay, so this is where you get distracted. You might get confused and say, oh, but they say everything. They said everything in the conversation. Yes, but the question is, what does the man say? Not what does the woman say? Okay, so keywords, very important here, okay? Then you also have, you need to, what I just mentioned, right? Listen to the correct person, okay? And there's only one answer to the question. In part 2, which is
Santiago, sorry, can you put the last slide, please? Just for a sec. Thank you very much.
Then we go to the next part, and the sentence completion. And in this, it's in chronological order, okay? Remember, in sentence completion, you have a sentence and a blank, and according to the lesson, you need to complete the sentence correctly, okay? And everything is in chronological order. So this is why you need to pay attention while you are listening, because if you miss it, you know, and this is something that we mentioned before, right? Don't spend a lot of time in a question, right? If you're not very sure about the answer, you can't get it, okay, forget about it. And especially here, right? If you're listening and for some reason you missed the answer, don't waste your time on it. Just go to the next part, okay? And try to pay attention the second time when they do the listening again, right? You need to read. Remember, they give you a small amount of time to read ahead. So read and anticipate, so you are more prepared to answer the question. Okay, and this is very important. I can't stress this enough. Like I said, they will tell you, okay, you have 30 seconds to read. And if you're distracted, you don't pay attention. The moment the person starts talking and then you start paying attention, please check what you need to do, okay? If you didn't read, you were, yeah, okay, whatever, and then, oh, they're talking. You're paying attention to what they are saying. You're trying to read the answers, and you're trying to find the answer according to the listening. Too many things going on in your head, you see? Whereas if you already read it, you more or less know what to anticipate, where the question is going to be answered, okay? So when you're listening, you say, oh, okay, here, they're going to talk about this here. So it'll be easier for you to answer, okay? So make sure you use that time to read so you can anticipate. And in the listening, they will give you the answer to the space and to the blank space, okay? They will give you the answer, but they will not give you the exact same words, okay? They will not give you the exact same words. They won't give you the exact sentence, okay? So let me give you an example, okay? In the listening, they will give you, they will say something, they won't give you the exact words that is in the sentence, in the question, but when you write the answer, you will need the exact words, okay? So if I confused you, perfect. Let me give you a little example here, okay? The question would be something like this, okay? It says, the blah, blah, blah of a goal is the same as football. That's what you have in the question. In the listening, they will say this, blah, 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 and the goals the same way, the goals are the same width as football. Okay, so you see the sentences are not the same. However, the word that goes in here in the answer part, correct? The word that goes in there, oops, let me just eliminate this here. Okay, yeah. The word that goes in space in the space is this word here, the with. Okay, so the blah 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 of a goal is the same as football, and in the listening it says, and the goals are the same with as football. So even though they're not the same sentences, but you need to write the exact same word in the answer. Okay. All right. So this is the in part 2. All right. Now then, let's go on. As I mentioned, the answer is with. Okay. Part 3, which is the multiple matching. Okay. Important again. Listen to and read the keywords. Remember, they will give you a certain amount of time to read the possible answers that you have. Okay, so you will be able to read the sentences that you have before you actually do the listening. Okay, and it is important for you to paraphrase the sentences. Okay, again, you will not have exactly the same sentences being repeated in the listening. Okay. And in the second part, obviously, you need to confirm and complete, right? And finally, you have in part 4, multiple choice, 7 questions. And they are also in chronological order. Okay, they are in chronological order. And check, in this case, it's a long conversation. It's usually an interview. Okay, so they will be interviewing a person and the questions will be in chronological order. Similar idea. In this case, you have 1 minute to check the possible 7 questions and answers, right? So when you're doing that, make sure you skim through them and identify the keywords. Okay, they will help you to figure out the answer. And as usual, the second time that you listen, confirm the possible answer. Okay, and if you didn't get the answer, well, that'll be your opportunity to find the answer. And if it's difficult to find the correct answer, remember, the same as we did in the reading part, eliminate. Okay, why are the other answers wrong? Okay, that's the best way of doing it. Okay, and then that's it. You're done with the listening.